In this next part of the lesson, let's retouch a portrait. Again, you can either open this directly in Photoshop or Bridge, or you can right-click on the Camera Raw file and choose Open With, and then choose Photoshop as the document. It'll automatically open the Camera Raw editor. This time, let's get started by changing our profile to be an Adobe Portrait profile. And let's adjust the color white balance by clicking on the little eyedropper and then clicking on her dress to set that up. Now she's removed that green overcast and then she looks much more flesh-like and natural. In the edit options, I'm going to click auto just to see what it would look like. It does a pretty good job, but let's open up our light panel and further refine it. If you ever want to reset any one of these values, you can double click on the slider and then automatically puts it to 0. Or you can also click on the name and you can adjust it kind of on the slide this way. Let's set this to be -20 or thereabouts. We'll close out the light and open up the effects panel. We'll bump up the clarity for this to be a +8. All right, with the overall picture now set up, let's see if we can do something with some details. I'm going to grab my zoom tool and zoom in till we can see the little blemish that's on her neck. If you want to remove this, there are a set of tools that are hiding underneath your settings in your toolbox. It looks like an eraser for now, but there's a variety of different kinds of things that we can do. There's removing, there is healing, and there's also cloning areas. Now this is going to use generative AI to be able to remove the different spots of it. We're going to set the size of it to be about 15. Notice in the book that this is a little bit different in a newer version of Photoshop. So yours may have something about opacity or have a variety of even say something different. That's okay. We're just going to set it to be large enough to work on this area. We're also using generative AI, and then we're going to click and drag over this area to select it. When you click on remove, automatically it's going to use its content to be able to select the area and make the adjustment. If necessary, you can also click through and see some different options, but in this case, they're all going to look exactly the same. Now we can continue to experiment by moving around on her face. I'm going to grab my little hand tool and click and drag. Just remember, whatever parts that you work on, you need to change the size of your brush. One more time, choosing the remove tool, set the size of it. Come on, give me the tool. To be a little bit smaller, and select the area. You can select multiple parts or multiple little areas all at once. And then when you say remove, it'll look at the surrounding areas and pull in what it thinks is the best. Sometimes this may take a little bit of time. Once you got something that you like, we can zoom back out. Let's make her eyes and lips a little bit brighter. In order to do this, we need to mask off and select just the area of her eyes and not the entire face, and certainly not the whole image. I'm going to use my zoom tool to zoom in on the eyes, and if necessary, you can grab your hand tool so that you can get it nice and centered up as well. You can find your masking options underneath the little circle here by clicking and holding. Let's choose the brush. This brush allows you to paint on the area that we want to affect, and it's pretty big, so let's see if we can change up the size of our brush. The size of your brush needs to be set to 2, with the feathering set at 100, flow of 50, and a density of 100. And you can keep auto mask turned off. This makes it nice and small. Now the kind of edit that we want to do is to make these eyes much more saturated. So scrolling down to the color setting, let's bump up our saturation to be about +70, so way saturated on our area. If yours is off by a little bit, that's okay. Now when we go in to paint over an area, very subtly, it's going to increase the saturation of those irises. Let's do the same for this one as well too. By the way, if you can't see where you're painting, do make sure Show Overlay is turned on. Now we can actually see what we're painting. Then you can turn off the overlay to see the effect that we're applying. Now this particular mask is going to be saturating the eyes. So let's double click the name of this and rename it Iris. Now if we want to reduce a specific area in saturation, let's create a new mask. Again, it'll be a brush mask. And this new mask, we're going to go down to our color settings and let's reduce the saturation to be like -50-ish. Now we can paint in an area and it will start to reduce the amount of color. There it is, more saturated. Here it is, less saturated. And again, we can name it by double clicking on it and call this the eye corner. Let's do one more mask to brighten up the whites of the eyes. So create a new mask. It'll be a brush mask. For this one, we're going to set our exposure to be a little bit brighter at 0.5, right about there. Now when we paint with this brush, it's going to brighten up and whiten the eyes just slightly. And once again, we can double click the name of it and call this Eye Brighten. At any time, if you want to see before and after, you can click on the little eyeball icon on whichever mask that you have to turn it on and off to see the changes. Again, these changes are going to be very, very subtle, but when you turn them on and off, you can see how drastic it does look with or without it. Let's zoom back out by going down to our fit area and let's choose, fit to view by clicking here. Now to select just the skin tones of her, we can create a new mask and tell it to select people. This will automatically take a moment to select and choose the person. Notice that this may take a little bit of time and you can get a bunch of different options over here on the side. We specifically want the facial skin and the body skin selected, but keep everything else unchecked. From here you can say create, and this added the mask to our design. With our mask selected, let's turn off Show Overlay so we can actually see the skin. And then finally in our options, let's scroll down to our Effects menu and let's set our texture to be -30. This will smooth out our skin texture, and if you zoom in, you can see it. Again, turning on and off the mask will show you kind of a before and after and how that nicely smooths out the texture of the skin. Let's double click our mask name and call this the skin mask and say OK. And we're done. Let's view it side by side. Click on your preview so you can see the before and after. I'll close out my little mask by clicking on up here on my original image. And you can see how it's greatly enhanced from before with all the blemishes to after with everything nice and smooth and color corrected. Finally, once you're finished, you can click Done, and this will close out your Camera Raw editor. But remember, since we edited a Camera Raw file, this is going to give you an XMP file. I want you to upload just the XMP file for this portion of the class book assignment.